So in many of the books that talk about the basics of drumming, you may see either photos or drawings of what people would consider proper playing positions or the ready positions. And generally speaking, I agree with most of what I see, with some exceptions that we will also mention. So the one thing that's generally present is this idea of the 90-degree principle. And I mean, I call it this, but it's pretty obvious in the sense that typically, with relaxed shoulders, you will get a 90-degree angle between the upper arm and the lower arm. And obviously the 90-degree angle is at the elbow. There is also the story about the 90-degree angle in the legs. In other words, from the hip to the knee, and then obviously at the knee, from the knee to all the way through the foot. Those are the two sides of the angle, and the angle itself is roughly 90 degree. Don't measure your angles, just approximate. It'll be enough. However, there is one notable, I take exception with one notable point that seems to be pervasive, and that's the idea that once you've created your 90-degree angles, your stick ends up being a natural extension of the forearm. So the ready playing position very often looks like this. So your forearm and then the stick continuing in a straight line. I have an issue with this for a few reasons, and I hope to explain these very clearly. Number one, if you are keeping your wrist straight and your hand up and your stick as an extension of the forearm, the issue is that your hand has some weight in it. So if the hand is being kept straight, that means that your forearms are actually tight. So the way to remedy this is to actually use the soft wrist. So I'm not giving up on my 90-degree angles, but instead of keeping my palms parallel to the floor, as in this playing position, which is what you see in most books and most of those drawings or pictures, I just soften my wrists, and my playing position is actually not from the sticks being parallel to the drum, but actually the sticks being at a sharp angle. There are advantages. Besides the fact that my forearm is now relaxed, because my forearm doesn't have to bear the brunt of the weight of the hand, first of all, I'm much closer to being able to play quiet, for the simple reason that my stick tips are right at the head. If I were playing with the way that is being suggested, I'm somewhere at a mezzo forte level. So playing quietly comes as a very easy thing to do in this setup. Also, if I'm playing this way, I can use the full range of the wrist, attaining all of the dynamics from the quietest to the loudest and everything in between. So I feel like this is a very important point to make in order to understand why, because most of the time you will see people playing with their wrists and hands straight, why I disagree with it and how it does impact my playing. The other thing about it is once, and we'll get into much more of this, but I will use one drum set application to show why these soft wrists are so useful. So I will play a very simple phrase, a double stroke. So just right, left, left. A double hit with a bass drum, and two singles on the toms. And what I'm trying to do is get the doubles on the snare drum to be very quiet, and the double bass hit, as well as the two singles on the toms, to be very big. What you'll notice is that out of this position of soft wrists, it'll be very easy for me to whip out and use the molar technique, which we will definitely get into later, and get some very big open sounding drum hits, and then immediately come back to the quiet stuff on the snare drum. So here it is. I'll do it very slow and speed it up. getting very quiet snare notes, huge tom notes, without being encumbered by anything and being able to move through my soft wrist. So the other thing I want to stress is that the entire idea is starting from the softest and most relaxed point. So tension gets added when you want it, because it's a lot easier to add tension than it is to get rid of the tension you already don't even know you have. So the one thing I need to talk about are the shoulders. So the shoulders should be always relaxed. There's one very simple test to figure out whether your shoulder is relaxed or not. And it boils down to this. If your elbow is next to the side of your body, your shoulder is relaxed. As soon as you've moved your elbow even a smidgen of an inch towards the outside, your shoulder starts tightening up. So my advice, in the same breath as soft wrists and moving through very relaxed forearms, is to make sure that our shoulders are also relaxed and that our movements actually come from a place where the elbows are never moving out. They have to move out a little bit as you play, but you try to always keep this as a starting position. In other words, even when I was playing the phrase, I'll play it again, just observe my elbows. They will never open up to the side. Or when I'm moving around the kit. So I'm able to keep my shoulders relaxed by the virtue of the fact that I'm not moving my elbows out. So all you have to do is just put your hand on a shoulder, move your elbow out, and you'll just feel that the muscles are tightening up. You want to avoid that as much as possible. Of course, like I said, it's not entirely possible to keep your elbows in all the time. So just think of this as a starting position and try to get back to it whenever you can. The thing to remember with this idea of keeping the shoulders relaxed and by virtue of keeping the elbows close to your body, do not try to do this artificially in the sense of pushing the elbows into your body. That won't help. All you have to do is just make sure that the elbows are softly touching the body, but not by trying to push in or force this idea of the elbow being stuck to your body. So just relax and it'll happen. So once again, to very briefly recap, 90 degrees both at the elbow and at the knee, at the elbows and at the knees. And the only difference between what you'll see in most books and what I have to say was the idea of the soft wrist, which precludes tension in the forearm. And from there, we can move in a very relaxed fashion around the kit.